This is the S21 Ultra.
Oh, I know how you hit the call. Spend your life searching for more. Afraid to leave, afraid to show.
Now, right off the bat, I gotta say this is a solid phone. You know, it's capable in every single way, and it doesn't let you down. You know, so having said that, but looking at the build and the design first thing I want to say is when I've gotten used to this design heavily, but when I first saw it, and my actual thoughts on the actual design aren't the best. The front looks super clean with the small punch hole and the curved edges. I love that. But then the back with the way the camera goes inside the frame, I don't like that. I prefer the look of the Note 20 Ultra, but because this phone is in matte black, I absolutely love it. You know what I mean? So it ends up looking pretty nice because of that black on black look, in my opinion, which is why overall I actually really like the phone. But say the black on black wasn't an option, I would tell you I'm not the biggest fan of this phone design. But anyway, talking about the black on black, it looks so clean. Black camera bump, black frame, black logo, black back. It's so nice, and it's made of glass, and it feels high quality, of course, and it's very, very slippery. Phones aren't usually slippery in my hand, even matte phones, but this is the slippiest phone I've ever held, 100%, and I'm pretty sure I said that in my unboxing as well. Now, on top of this, anyone who holds this phone along with me will tell you that this is an incredibly heavy phone. It's not like heavy that it impacts the experience when you're using the phone. It doesn't make it any harder or anything like that. It's just noticeably heavy when you pick it up for the first time and you're not used to it. So, but that's also a good thing because it adds this premiumness, and it adds, it makes it feel like a more solid, expensive phone that it is. And you want to be feeling that when you pay 1,100, 1,200 pounds. Now, in terms of the rest of the build, you are getting no expandable storage, which kind of sucks. You're getting the volume and the power buttons on both the right hand side. I do think I still prefer volume on the left, power on the right. But you know what? This works. It's much better than power and volume on the left, which was on like the Note 20 Ultra, I think. But now it's easy. It's not hard to screenshot. I thought that would be a problem. It's not. And you can kind of reach them both with your thumb with a little bit of movement. So it's all good. Other than that, you got dual speakers, one in the earpiece, one in the bottom. The speaker in the earpiece isn't that loud. So it's kind of more heavy in the bottom, and it's kind of more reliant on that. And then at the bottom, you also got your USB-C port. But yeah, overall, form factor, design is super solid if you've got it in black. And in the hand, it feels like money, and it feels very, very sleek coming from a boxy phone like the iPhone 12 Pro. So, it's an overall wonderful phone to hold and use and look at, especially if you're getting the black phone. But if you do want to protect this sexy phone, then ESR have sent me a few cases to look at. They clearly specialize in clear cases, or that's the majority of what they sent me. And me personally, not a big fan of clear cases, but they're solid clear cases for as far as clear cases go, and they're a good price. So if you're interested, they are linked below. But then they have this kickstand model, and the kickstand model is the one I really like. Now they have the clear case model, and my opinions on that. But then they have this like translucent gray one, and this one looks really nice. The gray ends up looking really nice with the black version, and it's kind of just translucent enough to be able to see the Samsung logo, and it ends up looking really nice. And then for the kickstand itself, it's made of metal, and it feels really solid. Like the hinge in that thing and the material itself feels really good. And as a kickstand case does, it goes up vertically and also goes up horizontally. All links below if you're interested. But then an incredibly important part to the phone is the display. It's your interaction with the phone, and the display is a 6.8 inch AMOLED 1440p display with 120 hertz, and it goes up to 1500 nits in brightness, which for those of you who don't know it's very bright. But that only comes into place when you're in bright places, and it automatically does it, pushing it to those extra nits when you're in the sun or something like that. But it's got the edges curved. It's not enough, I think, for people to get annoyed. And me personally, I've never found them annoying anyway, so I love the way it looks. And I love using the edge display as well because I find that useful. And it looks super clean, and it's fun. There's no problem when you're typing or anything like that. I think it's nothing but a pro. But of course, as I said, it's 120 Hz. It's also got the adaptive mode, meaning it changes from around 10 Hz to 120 Hz depending on what you're doing, so you can save battery life. So if you're staying on like a still photo or home screen or anything like that and you're not swiping across through, then it will keep it, you know, roughly down at around 10 Hz, so it can save the battery life. And when you're doing your scrolling and all that, 120 Hz is triggered, and it feels super smooth because the screen is refreshing 120 times per second. Other than that, it, you know, with the brightness, with the curves, with the 120 Hz, it just looks so nice. The colors are vibrant. It looks like a wonderful phone. It's got 1440p, as I said. The resolution is on point. So, you know, when you're watching a high quality YouTube video, which by the way, my videos are now in 4K. So, you know, that's kind of cool. But yeah, when you're watching a good high quality video, it's noticeable. It looks very nice as opposed to using 1080p. And honestly, just, you know, to sum it up, the screen is like, wow. Now, another new thing about this display is it has S Pen support, which was never in any of the previous S phones. It was only in the Note phones. Now, it doesn't come with an S Pen inside because, you know, the idea of the Note is that it has the S Pen within it, like it's you know, customly designed and based around the idea that it has a stylus that works with it, whereas this is just, it's kind of just functional with the S Pen. And you can probably get a thicker one. People say the thicker one feels nicer to hold, like a real pen. But anyway, I haven't tried this. This is just something that I'm telling you. Another thing with the display is it has a new fingerprint. It's an ultrasonic fingerprint like the previous ones, and it's better, and it's noticeably better. Apparently it's bigger and it's faster, and I can definitely confirm that. I have had much less fails with it. The success rate is like really high in comparison, and what it basically results in is the phone opens up at pretty much the same speed, but it's faster at recognizing the fingerprint, not faster at processing it. It processes at the same speed, but when you come to scan it, you don't have to hold your finger in place anymore. All you have to do is kind of just tap it there and take it off, and it'll open. It's pretty, you know, it's pretty nice. And because of that bigger area of, you know, being able to scan your finger, it results in less failed attempts at scanning the fingerprint. It's just more likely to not make a mistake. So anyway, new fingerprint, it's super solid and it's doing its job really well. I think Marquez said this, whereas it kind of hints to the whole new thing of like having the entire phone screen or the entire bottom half just a fingerprint scanner along with being a screen, which would be really cool because, you know, I can see that happening in the next few years, maybe 2-3 years. Now, the beautiful battery that is now powering this display is 5,000 milliamp hours, which is a lot of milliamp hours. I remember when getting 4,000 milliamp hours was kind of like a big deal, and now it's 5,000. And this is the first time that I have genuinely loved the battery of an Exynos phone. It makes its way through the day. It's probably a day and a half battery. You know, I could end the day with like 20%, 30%. Depends obviously how much I use the phone, but it's looking really good. An Exynos battery used to be an absolute joke up until today, so it's looking good. And that brings me on to Exynos. So for those of you who don't know, the Samsung phones sold in the US use a Snapdragon processor, and then the phones sold outside the US use Samsung's own processor called Exynos. And usually the Exynos versions of their phones are significantly worse than the Snapdragon versions. And this heavily usually shows in battery life, but this time it doesn't show. The camera performance is great. The speed is like any phone that's like fast. The battery life is better than most phones. So Exynos here is looking really good. If you aren't in the US, then you're getting the Exynos 2100, which is a 5nm chip. If you are in the US, you're getting the Snapdragon 888, which is also a 5nm chip. And when it comes to charging, you have 25 watt fast charging and 15 watt fast wireless charging. So just something you should know. That kind of means it will charge relatively quickly, but I'm not sure what the speeds are. Now, final thing I want to talk about before we move on to the cameras is the new beautiful update that comes with this phone, and that's OneUI 3. We went OneUI 1, OneUI 2, now we're in OneUI 3, and I really like it. I've kind of liked the design look of OneUI in the past two years, and it's nice, but I always felt like OneUI was never super refined. It was kind of like the main problem in Android, in which it looks like they design things well and they planned things out well, but then they just kind of rushed it last minute at the very end, or they just decided to leave out the extra things. They got a little bit lazy there at the end, and so it doesn't feel like the puzzle pieces properly connect. It feels like there's little gaps in between those puzzle pieces. Like the shape isn't perfect, you know what I mean? But with One UI 3, it's refined. It's smooth and it flows. Everything feels like it's going in the right direction, and it doesn't. It's kind of like iOS in a way. It's not at that level yet, but it's really close. The jitters, the things, those little things that just didn't look right, didn't feel right, they're fixed. And the design is nice. The notification panel is noticeably nicer. I like the way it kind of blurs the background and stuff instead of what they were doing before. So overall, it's a solid version of One UI, and I'm loving the way it looks. So that's something to look forward to. But for the cameras. Now the cameras here is where a big part of your money is going into, and it's a big part of what they invested into it. So let's just, look at the main camera first. And the main camera has a 108 megapixel sensor, which is pretty crazy. That means, in their photos you're getting 108 million pixels as opposed to the usual 12 megapixel or 10 megapixel cameras. So that's really cool. You're also getting laser autofocus, because with the S20 Ultra they had problems with the focusing, so this should fix that if you're still concerned about that, though the Note 20 Ultra did prove that this shouldn't be a problem. But then with this also comes 8K video recording, which is also pretty crazy. And what I do want to say is, yes, these are high numbers, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's an amazing camera. They are kind of just playing the numbers game here, and it's definitely overkill. You don't need it, and I 100% agree. But that's the idea of having an Ultra phone. That's why they use the word Ultra. You're getting way more than you need, but it gives you a lot of space to kind of move and choose where you want to be. And the whole point is you can go above and beyond in a way that no other smartphone can, and that's the idea of this. Now also on top of this 108 megapixel main sensor, you're getting a 12 megapixel ultra wide with dual pixel autofocus, so you can get macro shots as well with that ultra wide. Then you're getting a 3x optical zoom camera at 10 megapixels, and then a 10x optical zoom camera with 10 megapixels. That's a 10 times zoom photo without a loss of quality, which then means you can get a 100 times digital zoom. Once again, it's crazy, and you don't necessarily need it, but it gives you a lot of space. And I think the 10 times optical zoom can actually be really interesting and allow you to get some really nice high quality shots zoomed in that no other phone does. So that's once again, the whole idea of Ultra. You're getting these benefits that people didn't even consider because they're so overkill, but it's there and you have them and you have access to it, and it's a cool thing. Anyway, it's the usual Samsung expectations, a lot of sharpening, a lot of saturation, but what I do have to say is there is very good dynamic range, and with that 10 times zoom, to be able to get that sort of quality at 10 times is really, really, really cool. And then of course you get this 100 times zoom, which isn't really usable, but it's still there and it's a really cool feature. You get good product shots because the main camera has such a large sensor. You end up also getting some bokeh, which is background blur in the image, which ends up looking really nice. But then you also of course have portrait if you would rather have that, but it is more artificial. For the 108 megapixels, it is crazy. I mean, it's pretty cool how much more detail you're getting there, and you can see from that window as well and hear the Google Home Mini. Then again, because of the dual pixel autofocus on the wide camera, you are able to get macro shots on there, which is pretty cool. Now, big thing with this is you're getting 8K. It looks good, there's a heavy crop, but it's a nice starting point. But then you have usual 4K recording, and you can do it from all angles, wide angle, 10 times, all of that. And this is just a quick look at that and the kind of detail you get. And the sensor, the big sensor here, works out really well, and you're getting nice bokeh. But with the zoom, you can see more of its capabilities. And at that 10 times, it does kind of start to fall apart. But you know what? It's a really cool feature in the first place, and it's nice to see that they're the way it is. So, those are the shots, and to conclude, this is an all-round phone. I can't complain here. It's an above average phone at a very reasonable price, I think. It's £1,150 here in the UK. And the thing is, the average price for a flagship now is around $1,000, and considering this is way more than just a flagship, it really does, push the boundaries. I think it's a very reasonable price, and I can't complain. You're getting what you're paying for. Unlike, say, the S20 Ultra, which was like $1,300 or something. That was way too much. But this is more reasonable, and I can't complain because you are paying a little bit more, but you are getting much, much more. And it's kind of like filling this gap in the smartphone market that just doesn't exist. at, once again, I think a reasonable price. So if you find this gap interesting, you find this whole idea of being able to have a ultra phone, a phone that pushes everything in every single direction, pushes all those boundaries, giving you overkill, things that you don't need. But if you like the idea of that, because it gives you a lot of space to kind of just push the normal boundaries, even if you're not going to take it to its full potential, if you are into this, then why not? It's £150 more than the usual price. It's a Samsung phone, trustworthy software, trustworthy phone, trustworthy company, and for the rest of the year, it's going to be one of the hottest phones of the year. Plus, something to bear in mind is Samsung phones go down in price very quickly, very much. And so if you maybe wait 2-3 months, then maybe you can be getting it, for maybe $900, $1,000 a pound. And then it's a pretty hard deal to say no to. So those are my thoughts on this phone. It's one of my favorite yet. I do kind of say that in a lot of reviews, but it definitely is one of my favorite yet. Not to mention that you have DeX as well, so you can turn it into a desktop computer if you connect it to a monitor. It's adding to the whole Ultra thing. And once again, you're pushing the boundaries. There's nothing like it. So anyway, I really hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and give this video a like and comment for the algorithm. Check out my Instagram for a behind the scenes perspective. Everything goes up there first. I've also got a video coming up about a Nova launcher setup on this S21 Ultra, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next one. Salam.
Looking for so